Yeah, my phone froze for a minute, so I had to start over again. So, yeah, oh my gosh. Like last night, I was watching something on Facebook, something about domestic violence. And I'm like, domestic violence is like so prevalent. Domestic violence is so prevalent. And give me one second. Oops. It really is. So I'm just gonna take care of something by Envy Drip from Melbourne, or lives in Melbourne. See you later, Envy Drip. All right. But yeah, I was watching something on Facebook about, domestic violence, or I've been watching about domestic violence. And I'm like, you know what? Domestic violence comes from? Domestic violence comes from uh, a stronger cell recognizing a weaker cell and trying to destroy it. It's like an antibody. It was created to go and destroy others that they see within themselves. Because antibodies, you can't have too many antibodies. They're necessary, but if you have too many, they take over and then they destroy. But then, they also destroy the host, which means that they won't live anymore. So domestic violence is when you have two weak people with issues destroying each other simultaneously, and they will reverse the roles. So it's like a cytokine storm. Domestic violence is, I mean, that's right now what's going on, what I'm seeing out there with the protesters and people um, uh, just demonizing people in government and people in the medical system, which I can understand because you guys have major predispositions and you want someone to blame. And so it's the easiest to blame someone that's in authority. No different than when I blame my mom, for a lot of my issues, but really it isn't my mom. I've had issues with my mom. Yes, she's not perfect, neither am I. But ultimately I'm the one that controls every aspect of my life. And at some point you have to stop blaming the government. You have to stop blaming your parents for where you are today. You have to take some kind of semblance of responsibility. So when I see like all of this, domestic violence across the world, whether it's the people versus the government, whether it's just like, neighbor against neighbor and husband against wife, and everyone's perceiving everyone as a threat. I mean, it comes down to the root of it all is that they're aging and degrading. Okay. And so I figured out that death and reproduction is what contributes to the major imbalances of our society. Because imagine once you learn everything and you've taken your licks and you have learned all the rules, and now finally you can abide by the rules of life and the rules of law. Then when people know all the rules and they learned everything, then they're able to just go and flourish and produce and enjoy. But the only times that we have strife in our society is we have people who are imbalanced. And it happens in governments too. But overall, that's why we have a constitution. People are like, oh no, the constitution is being degraded too. But let me tell you this, there's always balancing forces. Okay, we have checks and balances. Yes, there are tyrannical governments out there, of which then, we have issues with. I mean, China is a tyrannical government. Back in World War II, when Hitler was rising to power, the Allies came together and said, hey, Hitler is a tyrannical government. And then, our scientists here in the US recognized some talent over there in Germany, in the Nazi Party. And yes, Operation Paperclip did exist. Nothing is wrong with it because they figured out how to take something that was bad and made really awesome things, giving us some kind of extra technology to help you guys at the 11th hour because you keep reproducing on bad bodies, on imbalanced bodies, and you keep dying. When you keep reproducing and you keep dying, guess what? The climb up and the climb down is so fraught with so many issues that you can't tell if it's somebody's being tyrannical over you or someone is trying to protect you. It's confusing. So I was watching this morning some protests in Australia, and I'm just like, and I'm watching this mother who is protesting with her son, protesting against the lockdown. And so again, this is what we're fighting against. Those that are imbalanced, okay, that don't understand why we're under this lockdown, they're going to assume it's something tyrannical. You know why? Because they don't understand the underlying cause is we have so many sick people who can't handle some of these viruses. See, if how I know this, even innately at the micro, macro level, is because I felt the virus in my environment. Oh, but I had people in my world, in my Jilly Juice world, try to tell me that, no, it's your healing symptoms from the J Juice, Jillian. It wasn't from the virus. So I even have people that are still anti-government in my group that were trying to talk me out of the fact that I was being affected by this virus in the environment. Oh no. Just because I changed the salt doesn't mean that the virus doesn't exist and that now I got a deeper healing of which the salt then brought. No, I mean, I was healing like crazy. And then I'm seeing all of this COVID-19 happen. People around me dropping like, well, not dropping, but they're dying from cancer or whatever, heart attacks. And I felt it. Let me tell you, just changing the salt doesn't it will accelerate healing and it will go deep, but it's not going to ignore a virus in the environment. See, and that's where the issue lays. It's like, whose fault is it? It's always about whose fault is it? Is it the salt and the Jilly Juice that brought up the healing because I needed to, or was it the virus? How about it's both? So let me put that to rest to those that are still thinking that the government's trying to kill you. No, there is an actual virus in the environment. Now, whose fault is it releasing it, whether it's engineered or not? It doesn't even matter. At this point, what it all comes down to, so you don't have to keep getting lost in the arguments of whose fault is it, is if you guys actually balanced out your bodies where you're not dying and you're not reproducing, so the climb up and the climb down is not fraught with strife. That's what it comes down to. And so I wanted to go and comment on that woman that was in that protest. Hold on. She was protesting with her son, and she said she wasn't breaking any laws. And well, yeah, there was a law of congregation. They said, they don't want people congregating because when someone is aging and degrading as well as growing up, okay, they don't exactly really know what's good for them. When you're aging and degrading and you're growing up, you are learning, or you have had so many years of imbalances that finally it's affecting your cognitive ability to understand the reason why things exist. And so instead of somebody just trying to reason with you and trying to figure out how to penetrate your brainwashing in your head, they have to put down some orders and they have to have law enforcement. We wouldn't need law enforcement if we didn't have imbalanced people. You got to understand that. Imbalanced people cause the reasons why we have checks and balances. And law enforcement is a check and balance. Now, you might think I'm like some bootlicker or whatever. No, I understand. Because believe me, I don't want to deal with all the imbalanced people out there. I'm glad I have the FBI and the police and law enforcement and everything, because I don't want to deal with the major stupid heads that think the Jilly Juice is killing people. So I'd rather have and refer to a higher power, which is my government, to make sure that they protect me as well as protect all of you. It's an equal thing. Okay. So this woman took her kid to this protest. You don't take a child to a protest march, especially when you are going up against orders or against something that has been put out there as, hey, no congregation right now. Right now we're under a lockdown until we can figure out and flatten the curve, whatever. But imbalanced people are going to think it's tyrannical when it truly is for your protection. And so there's no way to win against people who are dying and reproducing, who have this thought process that somebody is trying to kill them and so paranoid. And then they feed into all these stories out there that could be a psychological operation from, like the Russians or something. Now I'm going to blame the Russians, but they're an easy scapegoat. But it could be anybody. It could be the guy down the street that knows psychological operations and wants to see people fight each other. I mean, when people go take dogs to dog fights, that's exactly what goes on with some people is they like to go and stir the pot, or they like to go bring two, innocent things and start feeding them stories that they're enemies of each other. And that is how you create all of this bullshit, because some people don't know how to rise above it. Good morning, Gail. So perceived threat versus imminent threat. That lady with her son out there in Australia protesting, to where the police had to actually kind of extricate her son in a gentle way she could, because the son was hanging on. He was like maybe 5 or 6 years old, and he was like screaming and crying. And she was like, "Oh my God, I know my rights." And she was like, I'm for the people and the Constitution, and the Magna Carta, and all that. I mean, it was just like she was so self-righteous. And she could give a shit about the welfare of her son, because it was all about her, fight the power, fight the system. And she then put her son in danger. And that's what happens when people are that imbalanced, is that they will put themselves and people in danger to fight to protect the people and themselves. See, that's the circular reasoning when it comes to imbalanced people, because they keep looping in the same paranoia and protection, paranoia, protection, paranoia, and they can't get out of that freaking circular reason. So anyway, so the perceived threat versus imminent threat, people don't know the difference. They do not know the difference. Whether it's the Second Amendment, whether it's, patriot versus something else, whether it's, anti-vax versus pro-vax, whether it's Bill Gates, versus the world. You guys have no idea what an actual imminent threat is, because you're so far gone. Okay, you're so far gone. So if an actual imminent threat came to you, you wouldn't know the difference, because you're too busy fighting perceived threats that don't even fucking exist. And that is just like, oh my God. And that's what the crazy thing is. So it's almost like when I'm watching people still posting the Judah Mikovits stuff, and I'm just like, I'm done posting my rebuttal. I posted that some meme and then a bunch of string of information to a bunch of people, like the day before, not yesterday, the day before, when people were really like making it go viral. And I'm over it. I am all for people. For now, they have all the information. They have the Jilly Juice. They know that there is no imminent threat, someone coming into your house and taking them away and putting them in a boxcar. They know about Jilly Juice. Do they know that, their government's going to kill them or not kill them? They don't know anything. But you know what? We have enough laws in place where it's not going to happen. But like, oh, but you don't know, because they're just laying the groundwork. And that's, no different than people. That's a paranoia. And so, I know about Jilly Juice. I'm going to do Jilly Juice. I'm going to still speak about Jilly Juice. I'm still going to speak about the micro to the macro. I mean, the whole thing with antibodies and going after cancerous cells and excess data is no different than domestic violence. When there's an imbalance, you get antibodies when there's an imbalance, right? Okay, so I'm still going to speak about the micro and the macro. And I don't care if some of you think that I sold out to the vaccines, because no, people are like, how can you compare yourself to Bill Gates? Because vaccines are just bringing up your predispositions that you already have. That's all they are. Now, do you have what it takes to actually handle the upgrade? And that's up to you. But if you don't get a vaccine, hey, that's fine. That's up to you too. Hope you can handle the environment. When you're around all your friends who are drinking and smoking and doing all their stuff at these concerts, and there's a virus that nobody really has an immunity to, really, there's no vaccine for it, so you really can't get a herd immunity where you have a little bit of the touch of the virus, but not the full force of it. I hope you can handle the amount of the viral upload, the exposure when you're out there hanging out, because you think that there is really, that there's no danger. So it's like, so no matter what, Jilly Juice will bring up your predispositions, and you'll have the backup, the support with the nutrients and the micro and macronutrients, the probiotics and the water and the electrolytes. And a vaccine will also bring up your predispositions. And then maybe you might have enough of the hair, skin, and nails and bones and excess resources to go and repair and have you bounce back or have you adapt with really very little pain. Those that are exposed to the virus in the environment, who are in the hospital with heart attacks, strokes, and on respirators, they didn't have enough of the hair, skin, and nails and bones, minerals and nutrients to have them bounce back with relative ease. Oh no, those people that are in the hospital because of COVID-19 had a very weak immune system. And those that are able to maybe be sick for a week with maybe a headache or some sniffles or fatigue, your body went through its immune process, was able to handle the environment, and you probably have a few antibodies to show that you have protection. Good for you. Now, I hope that when it mutates, you have enough what it takes. But every single year that you don't do Jilly Juice, you're going to degrade, leaving yourself more open to all of these diseases out there. And that is Mother Nature's actual Darwinism. She doesn't give you due process. And that's always been my point, is that man has given man due process. We have given people the stay of execution so they have time to switch their thought process and maybe change their ways. But some people take it for granted that there's a vaccine. They take it for granted that they have these stays of execution, like a government telling them to stay home so they don't fucking die from some exposure. And then they go and are like a teenager and rebel. Hey, I was a teenager. I rebelled against my tyrannical mother because, she knew what was good for me. I didn't know what was good for me. I rebelled a lot. But now as I look back on it, I knew there were some parts of it that she was actually right on. Other parts, okay, she's a little heavy-handed, but you know what? What do you do when you have a very headstrong person like me, that's running amok, okay? So I had to learn the hard way in a lot of ways of growing up. And some of you are going to learn the hard way, and hopefully it won't be too late. When she finally gave me some freedom that I was looking for, I definitely had to survive out there in the world. Like literally survive. Okay? And some of you, I hope you have what it takes to survive when finally, DeWine says, okay, fine. You guys want the restrictions lifted? Okay, fine. Go do what you got to do. And some people that do care about you say, okay, maybe you shouldn't have 50 people in one area. Okay, maybe you should kind of break up your parties so you don't have somebody mutate a virus that really we don't have a vaccine for, and we don't really know the ramifications when a bunch of people get together who are also communicable. But you can't tell a person who is aging and degrading, because even, that mother, she's also like a child. People who are mothers have issues too. They're not, let me tell you, mothers are not benevolent. They don't know everything. Okay, they do the best they can to protect their kids, but some of them will put their kids in danger to protect their children. See, isn't that's the logic that's out there. I'm going to kill to protect from being killed. I'm going to die for my rights. I'm going to die for my freedom. When you're dead, you're not free. What the fuck? So that's some of the really just illogical, subjective thought processes that are out there that I really want to point out. And one stood out this morning. And yeah, when people are aging and degrading. So that's why the Jilly Juice is a total game changer in all of this. Because, the Georgia Guidestones are correct. You guide reproduction carefully. You manage nature and humans and make them balanced and whatever. At some point, 7 billion to 500 million. Well, yeah, when you have so many, 7 billion people on this planet mutating viruses, there's going to be a pandemic at some point. And those that don't have what it takes, those that are all the diversity out there, is going to see what they're actually made of. Viruses and Mother Nature doesn't care about your politics, your degree, your lifestyle. Mother Nature doesn't give a shit about whatever it is that you believe in. Mother Nature is pretty black and white. And some of you are living in the gray areas. And you think that your lifestyle and your politics and all of your rebelliousness is going to save your ass. No. If you're not following the laws of life, Mother Nature will lay the hammer down. And so that's why I've been on the air and been around. I haven't given up my position with Jilly Juice because I know what I have. It follows the laws of life. And I'm penetrating the brainwashing. Because let me tell you, the vaccines aren't the issue. It's the prescription drugs. The prescription drugs and the holistic remedies are the actual enemy of the people. not the vaccines. The vaccines are the least of your worries. It's the prescription drugs and the holistic remedies. Those are the prostaglandin inhibitors that dilate, or sorry, that constrict your blood vessels. So that way, if you eat any salt or you eat anything, then you get this antidiuretic hormone that will then raise your blood pressure, and then you start taking blood pressure medications because you're not drinking enough water. How do you stop blood pressure? A high blood pressure? You drink water. But people who are sick who are taking holistic remedies, okay, who are taking prescription drugs that also suppress the prostaglandin and constrict your blood vessels, you guys are paving the way for heart failure. The vaccines are just a barometer letting you know where you stand. The real true cause of all of your issues are your zincs, your magnesium, all of your little freaking supplements, all of your little herbs, all of your little remedies. And if you're not doing J juice, that's where you're headed. Because the J juice dilates your blood vessels. You'll be drinking water, so you're not going to have high blood pressure. When you are dehydrated, yes, and you're going to do the jelly juice and you're not drinking water, then you're going to be swollen for a minute until you start drinking freaking water. And then the antidiuretic hormone then slowly tapers off. You're actually able to calibrate your hormones correctly. And then you release the excess of the microbiome that you have in your body. Excess, you still have microbiome in your body, but you're releasing the excess. And then you feel pain because you're healing. And then you're able to handle the environment with such ease because you'll know what it takes to upgrade if you have to. Because when you are around 7 billion people in all different cultures and all different microbiomes, inevitably there's going to be some kind of conglomeration or some kind of strain that your body isn't used to, and you're going to have to adapt to it. And that's why we have the CDC. That's why we have the World Health Organization, which they kind of dropped the ball by not saying this was a pandemic. So I don't know what's going on with that, but whatever. But the reason why we have the watchdog agencies and the checks and balances, so that way you guys get some kind of indicator and alert, and maybe you might change a little bit of your lifestyle for a minute until they can figure out how to adapt to this new environment with this virus. I understand Philip Sellers. If blood pressure is affected by many factors, not just water or salt, but also well, that's all. But people who don't have predispositions will not be affected by water and salt and jelly juice. People with predispositions that are constricting their blood vessels. Okay, so when you have blood vessels that constrict, Philip, and you have predispositions, because you're taking medications and you're taking remedies, that's the very nature of why someone would have high blood pressure. If you don't have to take medications and you're not taking painkillers, you're not taking prostaglandin inhibitors, since you probably know about prostaglandin inhibitors, I hope. Though I don't see a lot of physicians talk about knowing about prostaglandin inhibitors. But when you are taking actively prostaglandin inhibitors, they constrict your blood vessels, which makes it harder for the blood to pump through, and then you're dehydrated. So anytime you take salt or you eat anything salty, then you start triggering the antidiuretic hormone that then causes a person to then cause the blood to have to pump more to push that water through and separate it in the kidneys and all of that. But if you don't have predispositions in your cardiac output, water and salt and jelly juice, and you're not going to feel the symptoms of your predispositions. It's only those with predispositions that will have high blood pressure issues. I've eaten a very high sodium diet prior to jelly juice. Always have low blood pressure. Always. I never had an issue with high blood pressure because I never had cardiac predispositions. But those that have high blood pressure have been taking medications, have cardiac issues already, predispositions. And so they need to drink the jelly juice so they can get the healing and the sealing. Okay, no worries. So they can get the healing and the sealing. They're going to feel a little bit of high blood pressure in the beginning because the body is trying to calibrate the antidiuretic hormone is still going to come into play until the body knows that you're still going to give it water and you're going to heal the blood vessels simultaneously. And that's the beauty of the Jilly Juice, that it just doesn't fix some kind of symptom. It actually has simultaneous things going on, of which the holistic and the allopathic world only do half-ass the job. Okay, so when you're taking some water pill, you're releasing prostaglandins in the body to then release the water. All right, so when you release prostaglandins, when you express them or you target them or whatever, it dilates the blood vessels. It allows the blood to go through and it allows the water to be released, so you don't have excess water retention. That's the whole point of the diuretics and diuretics. All right, so instead of taking diuretics, drink the Jilly Juice. You know, somebody that's sad. Okay, why are you guys trying to be sad? I don't understand why people got to be sad. There's nothing to be sad about as far as this transmission. But anyway, so I got rid of that person. He was whatever. But yeah. But anyway, so yeah, the medical holistic industry only half-ass the issues. They don't really get to the root cause. They only manage the symptoms. Oh, you have water retention here, take this diuretic or take this water pill. And then that also compounds the problem. So that's why I have been on the air, getting my word out, fighting the stupid trolls, fighting the ignorance, trying to give people some kind of opportunity to at least be exposed to this information. I know you're still going to be in your subjective activism. You're still going to be stuck in your biochemistry. But I'm hoping that some of you will actually understand the Jilly Juice for what it is and do a little bit in the beginning and watch how things go. You got to get the waterfalls. You're not going to be dehydrated, just so you know. Salt will never dehydrate anybody because salt will bring up the antidiuretic hormone if you're not drinking enough water. So there's always checks and balances, even in your body. No different than checks and balances out there. Okay? And the vaccines are not the enemy. It's the prescription drugs and the holistic remedies. Bill Gates is not the enemy, but people who are imbalanced, looking for the nearest sacrificial lamb, will skewer the poor guy. And he's aging, so you know his days may be over, and people who are imbalanced maybe need to just leave this earth. That's really what it comes down to. Those that are scared of vaccines are going to have a self-fulfilling prophecy even when they don't get the vaccine, because they're not taking care of their body. With the Jilly Juice, you can handle the vaccines as well as you can handle the virus. Well, can Jilly Juice handle the prescription drugs? Well, of course. At some point, the intention is not to be on prescription drugs if you will have a prescription drug. Okay? So at some point, Mother Nature, like I notice that I don't gravitate towards trying to reproduce. You know why? Because I'm the best copy. Now, my husband has needs because he has to reproduce. Not literally, but he wants to, right? I'll cater with balance because men need to keep their semen. That is their life force. Okay? At some point, I'm hoping that people will catch, but I'm going to be writing another book after this book coming out in June 2020, which kind of lays the foundation of the microbiome and not demonizing sugar and salt. And then the whole evolution of the Jilly Juice, of where it used to have a diet and it used to only have pink salt instead of white salt. Now it only has white salt and no diet. And then here's what to expect and drink it, and that's it. So after this book of June 2020 coming out, I'm going to write another book that is really going to hit home on the patterns in nature, human, animals, and plants, and how everything is truly connected and how it translates in all of your context, all of your social circles, in everything, the telomeres. I mean, I have so many notes that we have to start revamping the world, and the education system is kind of crap, which is why they're taking money out of education, because we're not turning out really very well balanced kids with any sort of common sense. And sometimes, yeah, I think it's very hard for these teachers to get through to these children who have major compound predispositions. And it's very difficult to teach kids with very diverse issues. I was definitely a difficult child. I, made it, I got my GED. For those of you that don't know this, I got my GED. So, oh my gosh, she's not a high school graduate. Yeah, because I knew it all back then. And then when I knew that I needed to get more education, I went back to college, didn't get a degree, but I definitely got more of the basics that I needed. So, and then when I found the interest, then I started researching through all of the open source information. Okay, so not having a college degree, not having a high school degree, but a GED, which, GED is just like you learn, math and English and whatever it is you got to know at the time. And that's perfectly fine. It didn't make sense to me to go through high school. I had my own journey. Okay. So anyway, so that's, so my path has always been a very independent path. I never followed the system truly. Now, I tried to fit into the system as I got older in my 30s and 40s. I knew that I kept bucking the system. That was never going to make it. And so that's when I started, really conforming. But then, innately, I knew that even the medical holistic industry wasn't the right direction. And so that's what then prompted me to do a lot more research of probably where my independent spirit comes from, because I didn't follow in lockstep all of my peers over there in Silicon Valley. So imagine being a high school dropout in Silicon Valley. That's a lot to deal with because everybody in Silicon Valley are like overachievers, and here I am going like, this is not the path for me. This is not my path. But damn it, what is the path? There was no representation of where I could go. I didn't study enough of those big thinkers that didn't go to high school or didn't go to college to say, okay, if those guys didn't go to high school and college or didn't graduate, they, whatever, do I have a chance, And I had to forge my own path. And some of you, may need to forge your own path. Some of you realize that your degree and the education you have really did not give you enough to substantiate, your path. And maybe you need more than just your degree. That's a great foundation. Like you're a physician assistant. That's awesome. You went to a lot of school and you have a foundation, so you kind of understand where I'm coming from. Imagine those that still don't graduate or graduate college and drop out of school because the education system can be really crappy for some people. And then they don't know half of what you know, Philip, right? And then they all they hear is stuff they see on like the American Heart Association, how salt is so horrible, and all they hear is what their doctor tells them, who may or may not give them the right information. And then they hear my information. They're like, oh my God, you're not a doctor, you're not this. And it becomes a Tower of Babel. So that's why my book, even my last book, when I did make claims, I still referenced PubMed. I still referenced the National Institute of Health. I still referenced a lot of the peer-reviewed journals out there. Okay? Because it's not enough just to make claims with no substantiation. You got to substantiate in some way. And so how I really substantiate as far as the regrowing organs and limbs is that when you allow the prostaglandins to be expressed and you allow blood flow where it didn't flow before because you were too afraid of the pain, the potential to regrow limbs and organs and all of that is quite possible if you can handle the healing process, the pain process. That's the key of why we have not seen any proof of someone regrowing limbs, even if they're born without them. So introducing these possibilities with science to back it up, because you reverse it as far as constricting blood vessels, and then you have to get amputations because blood isn't flowing in that area. Well, yeah, as above, so below. You take away blood, something dies. You give blood, something lives. It's pretty cut and dry. You don't need a college degree to know that. All you need to look at is the rules. Okay? What caused an amputation? Blood flow. Lack of blood flow causes amputation. Well, then what could cause life then? A regrowth. Blood flow. Actual blood flow. And you don't stop it. You don't constrict the blood vessels with the painkillers. So that's why we are dying of heart failure in our society, is because of the prescription drugs and because of the holistic remedies. And so now to get that across to even the most uneducated is like an uphill battle. And so it's a balance. If you're relatively educated, maybe you don't have a PhD, but maybe you have some kind of foundation of education, you might actually get this. People who are so highly educated don't like my information, or if they do, they don't say it because they're like, how the hell do we not know this? We're so highly educated. Oh my God. All of my Stanford and Berkeley and Princeton degrees don't mean shit. I can't even figure out how to do indefinite life. And this chick who has a GED, who looked on Google, she figured this out. What the hell? So the people who are so uneducated be like, well, you don't have a Stanford degree. You don't have a medical degree. How the hell did you know this? Oh my God. So I get it from both the most educated that paid $100,000 for their degree, and I get it from the most ignorant who barely even graduated high school, if that. And so the only people that I really can cater to are those that are relatively balanced, who are not too educated or uneducated. Those that just have a nice middle education and they're open. They're not invested in their fucking Stanford degree, and they're not invested in ignorance. So that's the name of the Jilly Juice, is balance. And it translates into everything, the micro and the macro. So when you understand how things happen at the micro level, you'll see why it manifests the same way in the macro level in different contexts, which are all the same. So anyways, there's a little bit about me that you don't know. Oh, Jillian didn't graduate high school. Oh my God. Well, whatever. Now you have kids that can't even go to school because they're too afraid of the COVID. Okay, so now they're going to get online education. I went to this class that did 180 hours of math and English. And then I took the test twice. I passed it the second time. It's like, okay, I didn't pass it the first time. And I was like 19 with absolutely just had my own thing going on. And so I finally passed it the second time. And then I took the ASVAB. And then I retook the ASVAB, which is for the military. Then I'm like, I'm not cut out for the military either. And so then I went back to college and learned a lot of different stuff. So I had my own path. It wasn't, the traditional path. And, I had a lot of life experience in between. So that's how I'm able to tap into so many different thought processes, because I've been in the ghetto. I've been in very rich areas. I've been in China. I've been all over the US. I've seen it. I've seen a lot. I've seen a lot. And so when you see a lot and you've exposed yourself to a lot, and you don't live in your little bubble of like cliquey, homogenous society, you'll be able to be open and understand how to speak to so many different listenings. So that's why it's easy for me to speak to so many different types of people, because I've been around so many different types of people. Okay? And those of you that have been stuck like only in Silicon Valley have absolutely no idea what it's like for people out there like in Appalachia, and what they deal with and what their lifestyle is. Okay? And so if you're only from Silicon Valley, then you'd be like, oh, filtered water and exotic salt and organic. And then someone in Appalachia is like, they live next to a Walmart maybe, or they grow their own vegetables, right? And they don't need filtered water. They can use the well water. They can go find the nearest, salt mine and go get some salt. They can grow their own cabbage. And they just need to get a bunch of jars from the 5 and dime in their little rural community. And they can do the Jilly Juice. But I think a person that's stuck in a homogenous Silicon Valley would be able to talk to someone in Appalachia in a little tiny rural farm? No. But I've been in a trailer park in the middle of like an Appalachia type of thing, to being a nanny all the way like in Hollywood. I worked for somebody that worked for ABC out there. They lived in Danville, California, Black Hawk area. And then I moved out there to then LA when they moved, and worked for, her for a minute. I'm like, I'm not an LA person. And then I worked for somebody in Walnut Creek, California, watching their kids. Okay. And they are high up in the financial world and stuff. And then, and then I went and did my own thing. So I have so much different experience in so many different worlds. I'm able to kind of understand what all these people have to face and deal with, and who they have to conform to, and how they can do this and they can still be successful in whatever they're doing. And so I could speak to the poor person to the very, very rich person, and they would still understand and have access to this and can do it. Okay? So that's my diverse background. That's why I can keep having these revelations and keep speaking. And then I put myself in the conspiracy world. And then I understand everything in the conspiracy world and the anti-vax. I even wrote about anti-vax in my book that I discontinued. Okay? So I've put myself in so many different people's shoes and walked the walk. I walked in people's shoes for a long time. And then I realized, okay, I don't want to walk in these shoes. I don't want to walk in these shoes. Now I got to create my own shoes, because all those people's shoes out there, they don't fit me. I need to manufacture my own shoe. And maybe this shoe will fit everybody. And it does. And so that's where the Julie Juice came from. It came from a very diverse background. And so I'm going through my own evolution process. All of you are going to go through your own evolution process. And it's going to be a fun but bumpy ride. And you'll handle all of the crap that goes on out there, because at least we have a good government. At least you live in the West. You have access to resources. That's all you need. Is some jars, temperature control, salt, a blender. Maybe you can even use a knife if you don't have a blender. Some people don't even have electricity. But hey, you have a fire and you have fur. You can wrap your jars in the middle of winter, put them near a fire. You can ferment. We got to keep that fire going though. Okay. So anyways, you guys have a good day, but I'm going to go do my thing. Happy Saturday. I did reveal a lot about myself today. Interesting. All right. You guys have a good one. Bye.